Alright, y'all. So, what's up? It's Jada Renee with Indie Media and Indie Music Group. I wanted to be sure to bring this video to y'all. As I mentioned, I was going to do a Nipsey Hussle marketing breakdown. It's a lot of awesome things happening in the industry right now for independent artists, and I just feel like what better way, to give some energy and some homage to the man who laid down this foundation and created this blueprint. He obviously wasn't the first person to create the independent blueprint for artists, but I would say definitely for artists in our generation, the millennials or whatever you want to call us, I would say watching Nipsey do what he did and watching him put his foot on next to make sure he did what he did independently with his Proud to Pay campaign was definitely something like amazing to see. So today we're gonna break down what the actual Proud to Pay campaign was and how that kind of opened up doors for Nipsey, but other artists that we have seen break down their independent barriers. So essentially that was a marketing strategy. So the Proud to Pay campaign was a marketing strategy that you could essentially say was a crowdfunding strategy that Nipsey put together to simply, raise more awareness for his independence with the actual mixtape he was dropping at the time and bring some like synergy to him being an independent artist officially, because he had recently left Epic Records. I want to say between that 2008 and 2011-12 time, he had left Epic Records, which was his first label deal that he signed. So after he left, when you leave a structure, entity, label that's feeding you backing, you have to figure out how to make that backing for yourself. So in the situation he was in with Epic, he actually wasn't getting a lot of notoriety. He was kind of shelved for a nice amount of time. So he actually wasn't getting that push from the label that he felt like he needed to get certain things and projects moving, afloat how he needed to, so that he could actually break through that ceiling and break as a, artist, mainstream that is signed to a label. You always see the moment where they actually start, they creep up, and they actually break, and they go through, what happens when you are breaking an artist. So he didn't get to experience that particularly with the label with Epic, but once he got out of that deal and he structured himself accordingly to be, fully independent, he did see, that success. And I struggle with putting Nipsey in the past tense, so I feel like, his energy is definitely still moving through the independent artists and the creative industry of today. But, I just have a very difficult time putting him in the past tense. We worked with Nipsey Hussle back in 2018. We brought him to Cleveland, and that was a beautiful moment just to feel his energy and feel his presence and just to know him on that level. He is very monumental, and he knew exactly what he was doing, and he strategized his position perfectly for a hood man coming out of California with no knowledge and education of what he was doing, from taking that and educating himself and taking his time to educate himself and to shift his entire reality to create, something monumental for himself, to create a legacy for himself. That was something amazing to see. So hats off to Nipsey always over here. But yes, so when he was in a situation where he just left his label, right when he put the Hustle in the House video out, that was him, creating that break kind of on his own with that independent level. So, it takes time to build that momentum as an independent artist. Usually, you broke, you don't really have, ties to either the industry of like the industry you want to be in, like connections, or you don't have like the certain independent industry connections that could get you to break certain doors in the independent level, because there's doors in each level. Either you want to be mainstream, it's doors you got to knock down to get into the mainstream, and if you want to be successfully paid as an independent artist, it's doors you got to knock down in the independent world as well. So if you don't have those connections or ways to get connections or ways to breed your own connections, because you are literally that marketable that you can do that on your own, it will be difficult for you to, create a lane in the independent world. So Nipsey took a nice amount of time building his connections up so that he could do everything I just said seamlessly enough to make it to the level that he wanted to make it. So the first thing he did was create the Proud to Pay campaign. So that is a very big deal, because what he did at that time was kind of slap labels in the face and kind of, put he set a precedent for artists who was also signed to labels at that time to kind of say, like, fuck the middleman. And he did it with his whole chest out, and he, created a tangible way direct to fans that he can create for himself outside of going to your label, which is the middleman. The label gets your fans for you. The label promotes your project for you. The label creates and curates your shows for you, so that you really don't have to do that much legwork as an artist signed under said label, except deliver them the projects, deliver them the music. They gonna take care of everything else, because they're the label, and their label dollars are pushing behind all of that stuff that you're doing. All they need you to do is deliver the music, which is why usually in those major label deals you do not own your masters. Okay, so the reason why a lot of independent changes are happening is because, like I said, around, I want to say like that, it had to be at this point almost 10 years ago. But that shift that we saw even after Nipsey, but definitely before Nipsey, when you saw a lot of artists shifting from taking their masters back. This is before we got the Diddy information we got now, but prior to all of that, we got the information from past artists on his label, on Bad Boy, confessing that they was broke. They telling you the truth, and it might be hard to hear because of some of your favorite artists, but it's like those moments in time can be, sold and sold and sold and marketed and marketed and marketed all the way from the 90s to now. We still, listening to some of those artists off of Bad Boy. It just sucks to know that those favorite artists we was listening to wasn't getting compensated during all that time. So the reason why they wasn't getting compensated is because they was, taken for several rides. Contracts was messed up. Several things was happening. We didn't know this. We grown up in the 90s, but we vibing. We didn't know none of this. Fast forward to now, you see what was going on behind the scenes. Now you hear. Now you can understand what was happening, what wasn't happening, what artist was being treated fairly, what artist wasn't, which artists blasted certain execs, which artists kept quiet but, scooted out the way. And you can kind of see what's crumbling down right now based on, some of our favorite executive heads, to some of our favorite artists who were ran by these executive heads. And now, with that independent shift, you can see why that fight was so important for a Nipsey Hussle to fight through. Even if we just talking contracts, fighting for independence. Like, when you sign your life away on a contract, it's very important. If you don't have the right labels and the right dealings going on when you make said deals and conversations with these labels, you will get taken for a ride. If you are coming from an inner city and you don't have that privy and that knowledge to even know, bring certain people with you in the room. If you being manipulated and you don't have somebody to stop that manipulation and say, hey, let's take 48 hours to read over this paperwork, we'll be back with you, and my artists will make sure they contact you in 48 hours. If that's not happening, labels is manipulating you. They sliding deals in front of your face, 20 minutes to sign. You know what I'm saying? It's so many different stories you could just look up on YouTube and the internet to vouch what I'm saying about how they manipulate you and don't really educate you on purpose, if you're coming from the inner city, on how to navigate through the industry. And honestly, no matter if you're coming from the inner city or not, because it's just, where the industry is at now. It's really like, how much can you put up to get what you want out of it? Which is why that framework of independence has now changed. So when Nipsey created the Proud to Pay, it was more so of spitting in the man's face and saying, I could do this on my own. I don't necessarily need a big machine to pump energy and money into my backing. I can get this by myself. So he took his street knowledge of how to, do what he was doing past tense on the streets. He took that knowledge to educate himself on how to do that same strategy, which is just sales. That's just sales, okay? You can say street sales, whatever you want to say, but Nipsey was great at sales. So he took that knowledge that he had in the streets when he was a youngin', okay, out there in the streets of, Slauson, okay? He was being a street salesman. Let's just say that. He was being a street salesman. So he took that strategy of him being a street salesman since he was a kid, and he took that and flipped it into how he could be a successful salesman as a grown adult man. So he flipped that and he created a crowd to pay campaign, which essentially is literally a crowdfunding campaign. So what Nipsey did was create a crowdfunding campaign around his music release so that he can get the proper money and backing from his fan base directly so that can help fund his project. Who knows how much, he made. We're seeing now the Russell partnered up with Even.biz. He's making, let's say, $11,000 from Kyrie Irving. I want to say Gary V. I think he put up 20 bands. Several artists I think Snoop Dogg gave him $1,000. Like, it's a lot of different artists, okay? Mainstream or independent or just your regular supporters or neighbors, right? That are funding that La Russell album. That's literally what Nipsey did. Before there was Even.biz, okay? There was Bandcamp. Now, Nipsey didn't use Bandcamp. Nipsey used his own website. But the strategy and structure is literally the same. You want a entity, a website, a page, a landing page, or something that you create that is literally going direct to your fans so that they can pay on that site directly for your music or your product. Maybe it's your music by itself. Maybe it's the music and the merch. Maybe it's a whole package and you put that thing for $1,000. I want to say IDK, the artist, independent artist, IDK just did that. He made a whole, I want to say he made like a CD player. He created a whole CD player for his album. And I want to say he put the ticket of $500 on that thing. And it sold out on his direct website. So it's not nothing different. Like, Proud to Pay was essentially what you call a crowdfunding campaign to literally bring your crowd, your audience around to campaign, advocate for your project. Meaning, I love your project so much, I'm such a big fan of you that I literally want to invest whatever number that I can into this project. Now, the reason why he called it Proud to Pay is because the campaign and marketing behind the whole strategy was to make you proud to support an independent artist on his journey to success, to whatever that outcome was for him. But I, as an artist, am making you proud as a fan to support me along my journey. That is crowdfunding. That is essentially, crowdfunding is another word for just fundraising. So all Nipsey showed everybody how to do is be independent artists and marketers, but also independent fundraisers, okay? There is a reason why you call it a campaign, okay? It was Proud to Pay, but it's a Proud to Pay campaign. Once you start campaigning, you literally put a whole marketing strategy. You have created a whole plan. It wasn't just he created Proud to Pay and then he just hit the ground running. No, before he even dropped it, this is behind the scenes. He had a team. He had someone working on what that timeline was going to look like before we even drop it, before we announce it. What's the website going to look like? Are we taking all the products off the website and just putting the tape on there for the price? What is the price? You feel me? Okay. We knew that the mixtape price was $100 at that time. At that time, there was no artist who was putting a value directly on their music for the price that they wanted. What was everybody doing? Going to the streams. Why? Because that's what the label was making them do. We grew up with the CD era. Going into FYE, getting a $9 CD, stacking CDs up. Literally, like, prior to that, our parents came from the record era, okay? It was way easier for artists to get paid during all of this stuff because they could actually get paid off the sales. Like, streaming, who buying? Like, I mean, technically, if we got Apple Music downloaded as an app and we pay that monthly subscription, I mean, that's cool, but it ain't nothing but like $12 or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is the actual breakdown that the artist is taking home? There's barely no breakdown. When you go research the streaming breakdowns, it's like 1 cent to the dollar or some shit. It's not even enough to memorize. It don't even matter because it's not enough the artists are actually taking home in their pockets to say, I make a living off my music, which is why you see this independent shift changing, because in the industry, artists are fed up. Coming in the industry, artists are fed up. And just in general, artists who are not even on the outskirts of mainstream or want to be in the mainstream, they already know the tea. Why sign if I can make all the money I need to make by myself? All you need legit is about 50 to 100 fans. Boom. Yeah, you can have 20K plus followers, 10K, you can have 1 million followers. But to break it down and make it tangible for your actual pockets as an independent artist, you need about 50 to 100. logical fans is gonna come to every show. They're gonna buy every drop. They're gonna support every project. They're gonna go and do whatever you say and promote because they are your core cult following. So that's all Nipsey did. When he created that Proud to Pay campaign, he was looking for his core cult following. And he took, which he didn't tell us, I know he took, based off doing marketing and knowing how this go. That man took a nice amount of years to figure out how to do this and make it actually tangible where he can make that money back that he lost, right? While he was in that deal with Epic. We don't know what that number is, but if he is literally creating a Proud to Pay campaign back at that time and he's putting the price of $100 on one tape, I'm pretty sure he did his math on how many albums it would have took for him to make his money back, but then also make profit off what he could then put into his new independent infrastructure, the music studio, the Marathon clothing store, certain things that we started to see elevate from Nipsey Hussle outside of just his mixtapes. You feel me? So Nipsey, which I told you I have a very hard time putting him in the past tense, so I'm gonna try very hard in this video. Nipsey is a monumental artist. Like, there is nothing that man did not do that is not being flipped and remixed right now. So I just don't want us as a independent community to lose touch of, you know, who set that tone, because that man energy is still flowing and going through every independent artist who is fighting this fight to remain independent, grab their masters back if they done, you know, signed a bad deal, or figure out that structure direct to fans. Literally, Proud to Pay was just a simple way to say direct to fans. That's all he did, and it was amazing and monumental when he did that, because it set the tone for what is happening right now when you see Even.Biz come on the scene. I want to say at least maybe 4 years ago at this point, that's when I started seeing them come around. So you wouldn't even have that. You wouldn't even really understand how to shift your mindset on the independent route if it wasn't for Nipsey Hussle. Like, respectfully. And then, I mean, like I said, he was not the first to do it, but I feel like he was the first to do it right, respectfully. Because yeah, you had your platforms like Bandcamp, okay? Bandcamp, it was ahead of its time, I feel. I feel like Bandcamp was ahead of its time. I feel like it definitely has the same model that we're talking about Even.Biz has, which is that direct to fan, you know, structure. Because you could post your project on Bandcamp, put a price on it, promote it to your fans, have them, you know, pay the price that you set for it, or they could gift you whatever price they say is worth, right? But I just feel like at that time, Bandcamp didn't have the interface, you know what I'm saying? They didn't have the logistics, the bells and whistles to make it look appealing. And I feel like when we were coming up, it was difficult to train our mind to understand that, you know, platforms like a Bandcamp existed, like, or platforms that, you know, were just independent to the mixtape era at that time of us growing up, were actually structured to help you as an independent artist. Like, Soulja Boy was independent for a long time before he signed. Like, and he didn't need to sign because he, another one who got it out the mud and really figured out how to put his song on everything. Like, if you was around during the LimeWire era, like, you remember Soulja Boy, you downloading tracks and you think you downloading one track and it's a Soulja Boy song. Genius. Like, genius marketing. We don't know how he manipulated them files, but he did that. But I'm just saying, these are different marketing strategies that were done behind the scenes that we didn't really know was like independent marketing tactics to market your independent artistry at the time. So by the time we get a Nipsey Hussle, and we done seen certain artists that we love, like, go super mainstream, go through what they call the chitlin circuit, you feel me? Go through getting contracts messed up and, you know, exposing the industry, XYZ. We get this whole new phase, you feel me? Which is kind of what Nipsey was pioneering in. And he created that energy off just saying, no, I'm not about to sign with y'all, or care that, you know, it didn't work out with Epic. Like, I don't need a label. So I think just watching him shift the mindset was the most important thing to see, because if you don't see anybody shifting that mindset, and he was educating people too, it wasn't like he was just, you know, throwing his balls to the wall and saying, watch me. No, he was saying, watch me and I'm gonna also teach you. So this is where, you know, inspiration to people like me came in, because I'm coming in off the strength of, like, I just want to create a whole marketing platform that helps independent artists. And he's coming from, I don't want to just be a rapper, I want to be a business owner. You feel me? He fused that entrepreneurship with that business, made the whole mindset shift make sense, because he's not saying, I don't need a label, fuck the label. He's saying, I don't need a label because I'm a business, I'm the label. You feel me? You feel me? This is the marathon. I'm gonna brand this whole shit myself. I'm gonna create this whole entity myself. I'm gonna sell everything myself. I'm gonna make everything myself. I'm gonna create the opportunities to create things in-house. I'm gonna own the real estate that is housing the stores that y'all are coming into. I'm gonna make sure I own the studio that I'm recording inside of. Like, it's certain things that Nipsey was doing that was really setting that independent infrastructure of ownership, because it's not just independent, don't mean just doing it by yourself. Like, no, you will need a team. That's where you get La Russell. Like, it's certain artists that are showing y'all how to do it, but it's like you gotta really educate yourself outside of just seeing clips and watching videos. You gotta really go educate yourself and figure out how your infrastructure is going to be created. If you watch what's going on, they showing you that it's very possible. Like, it's very possible. So you got your La Russells who are literally showing you how to build a team. You feel me? It might not be as direct as this is how you build a team, but if you watch the trajectory of certain artists, you could tell when certain artists started making certain shifts, when they started adding certain things to their structure, and how it's actually successful and working out for them right now. So I would say La Russell was definitely one of those artists that you could see, okay, he has a team. You might see some other rappers with their cameraman and with their producer, but it's different when you see a La Russell moving with certain people. He just did the Super Bowl with, like, I feel like I counted at least 12 people around him that had nothing to do with being on the Super Bowl. Those were not the band members. He has a team. Like, whether you want to, think that that's just an entourage that he's around, everybody around that man has a title, just like Nipsey. Everybody around Nipsey at the time, I don't care if you felt like they was gangbangers and jail niggas, they all had a title. They were all doing a job, because it don't gotta look a certain type of way. Everybody ain't gotta be in white collar suits and shit. It's just, what's your title? Everybody ain't gotta be the smartest to do this shit. Once the first person go first, I can educate the team. We just need the education and the money. That's it. So that's why a Proud to Pay campaign comes into fruition, because once he sat down and thought about that shit, he said, you know what? Only reason people sign with a label is literally for the financial backing. If I could create the financial backing, I could be the label. There's the marathon. You feel me? And I don't have to have it just be music. I could own real estate. I could have a fashion brand. I don't know if y'all remember, but Nipsey was getting into tech. He was literally about to put holograms on t-shirts. He was in the midst of creating apps, getting into Bitcoin. So he's showing you different trajectories on what's going on. Next thing you know, we see Tory Lanez create a whole partnership with Bitcoin. And he's literally becoming a millionaire and helping his fans in that moment become millionaires because they were investing into his coin. You don't come out of the gate thinking like that without watching Nipsey Hussle do some shit like that first. So, again, this is not a rant. This is just, a beautiful homage video to what I feel like was definitely like top 5 independent pioneers of music, to bring this whole shift that we're seeing right now, with independent artists, different platforms that are actually like trying to assist artists. Now you see different labels who are changing all their rules, trying to make sure they have a lane for independence, because don't nobody want to sign label deals no more. That's like the best thing, because if you think about this, like real estate, like houses, the housing industry, that's like, don't nobody want to use a loan to buy a house no more. That's great. Because the people are waking up and realizing I don't have to sign my life away just to get XYZ. I can figure out a way to make $50,000 to $100,000 without having to sign a piece of paper. I could just use my brain, use the people around me, use the resources around me, and figure it out. So it's very possible, and certain things might take time, but would you rather take the time and do it your way, or would you rather go the fast route and have other people have pieces of your ownership? So that's where it comes down to, because it's not bad or good It's just, what do you prefer? How do you want your freedom to be lined up in this artistry world? Like, how do you want your success rate set up? Like, if you want to complain and say, oh, it's gonna take so long to do XYZ, then the mindset has not shifted for you. And your music better be good enough to get signed, because right now it's not even about what it used to be about back in the day. They actually want to see you have some independent success right now. Like, yeah, it's shifting. Yeah, you still got labels offering, deals and distribution deals and ways for you to get in that way. But it's like, you still got to put in some work by yourself. They still looking for certain things. It's still A&Rs out here, artists and repertoire still exist. Like, people is out here trying to really figure out who can help their label pop, whether they're shifting into independence or not. So you still gotta have some work. You still gotta do that marketing plan, bruh. Like, you still gotta figure out what's your business plan. If you not taking your music seriously to the point where you have created a business plan for it, and you have a marketing plan along with a financial plan, you just out here playing. And you don't have to be 45 or 38, 52, 60 to do that. You should have that now. Like, you should have that now because it's free. Your brain can make that. You can literally have that thought, say, hey, like I said before, ChatGPT, make me a music marketing business plan for my rap career. Make me a whole marketing plan and a whole marketing tour rollout for my R&B career. Give me a list of 20 different, venues, pubs, bars, creative spaces that I can tour for the next 12 months in these 3 states. Like, I'm really giving y'all the sauce right now. But you could use AI right now on ChatGPT, whatever the fuck you want to use. But you can use all this shit to ask it whatever you want. So ask it whatever you want, but base it around your music career, so that you can get some money this year. Like, so the point of this video was to really break down what that Proud to Pay campaign was. And like I said, essentially the Proud to Pay campaign was a crowdfunding campaign. Like, I feel like for black people specifically, black artists, black creatives, it has been like this stigma against like asking for assistance when it comes to funding. Like, and I know for me, I don't care about that stigma. I'ma ask for some funding. I'ma directly contact a whole entity that I know got the money, because I don't. Like, I'ma damn sure apply for a grant, because I don't have the thousands that I might need for this beautiful idea I got. I might have enough to put up. And even if I don't get said grant, I'ma figure it out, because that's what you do. You figure it out. But you gotta create a strategy and structure for yourself, and you can't be afraid to ask for money. You can't be afraid to ask for help. So whether you're asking for money from, like I said, a grant, you feel me? Like, and you find different grant opportunities, which do exist for musicians. Like, grants are not just for, I don't know what people think grants are for, but grants are for everything. You can find a grant for anything, and I'll do a whole nother video about that. But asking for money doesn't have to be this thing that only white people do. Like, what the fuck? Like, no, like, money is green. Money is for everybody. So it's just like, okay. And if you feel like you don't want to ask in that sense, then do what Nipsey did. Do what you see La Russell out here doing. Heavy on the Nipsey though, because I feel like Nipsey put the whole play together. So it's like, Proud to Pay, just to break it down a little more, all he did was, like I said, find his core fans. So within that, that's just an experiment. You feel me? Proud to Pay kicked it off. Like, that's an experiment for me to see who gonna rock with me these next, let's say, 10 years down the line. By the time we get to Victory Lap, who gonna still be here that was here from Proud to Pay? Those fans, they get documented. You feel me? There's a whole, what we don't see. I'm pretty positive, I could bet my whole body, Nipsey had a whole spreadsheet for every single fan that bought anything from his website. And I bet you those people were invited to parties, events, shows, behind the scenes moments, maybe gifted certain things. I feel like, it's the same thing with the marathon. Okay, cool. We having a marathon grand opening. Every customer that comes in here is documented. Just like you get newsletter emails from Macy's and PacSun or wherever the fuck you shop, the same thing has to be going on with your music career. You bought an album from, you know, the Proud to Pay campaign. They gonna make sure they sending you an email whenever the next music drop is coming out. You bought a t-shirt from the Marathon store. They're gonna make sure you get on that mailing list so you can see the next drop. Literally. But you gotta build your package. You gotta build your process. You gotta build what that looks like so that you're not just out here rapping and it ain't nothing happening. Like, you feel me? So it's just a lack of education, I feel like, is being, you know, put out here amidst the shift, because the shift is definitely happening. It's felt. You can see it. It's different companies coming together to allow the independent route to actually open up, but that education piece is still missing, because it's a lot of people that still don't know what's going on. So in that sense of, if you don't know what's going on, this is what's going on. They're going back to what Nipsey created with the structure of Proud to Pay. That's all you need to know. Direct to fans. That's all that means. Proud to Pay means direct to fans. That's it. That's all the Even.biz is doing for you. Making your product, which is your music, go directly to the fans. Okay? Which means the middleman is canceled out. Who's the middleman? The streaming. DSPs. That's gone. I'm not saying you can't use it, but if you're an independent artist and you're not charting, like, let's just keep it a bean. Like, if you're not an independent artist that's like, shit, nigga, like I said, a La Russell or a Denzel Curry or even Tia Kareen. Who else? I want to say, it was a time when Doja Cat was still independent, but she was going crazy on the independent world. Like, she signed now, but it was a time. SZA too. Like, before SZA was with TDE, she was going crazy. Okay? Unless you're like that, the streams don't really fucking matter for you. So it's not saying it can't work, but at this point, it's just like an extra step that you do when you upload your music. Like, if you put the reality into it, if you ain't got a check yet from Spotify, I think you should be shifting over to the Even.biz platform or Bandcamp, or doing like what Nipsey did, which is putting your own website together, buymyalbum.com, and put a price on that thing. Because this is where the industry is shifting to. You don't have to be broke. You don't have to sit in your room with a mic and rap or sing or play the guitar. You don't gotta do none of that shit for free no more. Like, yes, you can do it to market yourself, but you don't gotta go to sleep without knowing a way that you gonna get money from your mixtape. You don't have to, but see, they trained us to think that being independent means free, and it don't. Like, they trained us to think that being independent means by yourself, and it does not mean that. Like, just because you're an independent artist don't mean you gotta get your shit out for free. If you're an independent artist and you're putting your shit on DSPs, that's exactly what you're doing. You giving your shit out for free. Like, respectfully. If you're an independent artist and you don't have your own website where your music is on there, and every time you drop and you say, hey, just drop this mixtape, just drop this album, go to my website and buy it for $10, $15, $100. It's your own website. You can put whatever price you want on it. But if you're not doing that, you need to start doing that, because you're missing out on the money. That's where the money is at. Like, but you gotta work. You gotta find your fans. You gotta make a marketing campaign. You gotta put a plan together on how you gonna push that to your people. And you gotta keep doing it. You gotta be consistent. You can't stop that. Like, Proud to Pay wasn't the only campaign that we seen. Then we saw Victory Lap. Like, you feel me? Like, it was several moments that he put into fruition that we didn't even peep was a marketing campaign, because he did that shit so smooth. Like, he did it so smooth. And if you peep, his team was very small. Like, I want to say he had about like maybe 6 or 7 people on his team. That's on the music team. Yeah, he had people running his store, but that was extra bread at the time for Nipsey. Like, Nipsey, by that time he made that Marathon store, he was already into real estate. He was already into getting certain other properties in that plaza, like, owned by himself and his real estate company. I forget who he was partnered up with. I know that name, though, but it's in my head, but I can't think of him right now. But he had a whole real estate partner. He was going around getting, you know, basically what I feel like they ain't say. Nipsey was into wholesale real estate. Like, he had property in Atlanta, too. Like, people didn't know that he was going under the radar of what they told you artists can't do to do it anyway. Because when you are with a label, it's like lying by omission, you feel me? It's like they didn't tell you you couldn't do certain things, but they didn't tell you you could, you feel me? So you might sign a deal and think that you can't use that advance check to, I don't know, get a vacant property and put a tenant in there. You might just think that you can only use it for your music, or you might just, I don't know, think it's only to buy your house and your mama house, which you might run out at that point. But it's like no one's educating the artist on what you can and can't do, you feel me? Which is the problem. So when contracts got fucked up, and when contracts get fucked up, because this will always be a thing, there will always still be a main industry level for, you know, a mainstream level for music, but now there's just opening more for the independent level, because that's what the fuck is about to be making more money. But there will always be the mainstream, period. You're always gonna have radio, you're always gonna have the billboards, you're always gonna have those mainstream ways, but the opening right now is here for the independent. And that's not even just for music, that's for content creators, that's for visual artists, that's for fashion designers, that's for, I don't give a fuck if you paint rocks, nigga. Like, it's open for you to do whatever you want to do right now. So I'm just saying all this stuff to say, if you don't have a strategy for your independent music life, business life, whatever it is, independent creative life, you need to get one. You need to create a marketing plan. You need to get a business plan. Like, I don't care what nobody's telling you. I don't care like how good your music is. Like, if you don't know how you pushing it, and if you don't know how you packaging it, and if you don't know how you making money from it, it's just a hobby. And hobbies are beautiful. You could always do a hobby. Hobbies relieve stress. Hobbies are amazing. But if you really want to take that shit seriously, and you really want to get something out of it that's tangible, like profit, you'll do what I'm saying. Like, you'll listen to a Nipsey Hussle and pay attention to a Nipsey Hussle strategy, and you'll create a Proud to Pay campaign and create your own name to it and put your own energy and, you know, creativity to it. But you'll peep what I'm saying. But, you know, again, I love that man. I will always love that man. I was lucky enough to meet that man and feel that man's presence and energy, and I just know firsthand that that man will be very, very proud of what's going on right now. But only if y'all take that shit fully serious to the max. Don't play with this opening right now. Do not play with the access that we got right now as independent creators. Do not fuck this up. Like, go into this energy and make as much money from your art as you can. Like, go in here and fuck it up one time, respectfully, and have an amazing time doing it. But all of this is just being said to let y'all know that this is possible. It's always been possible, but people like a Nipsey Hussle had to bring that to fruition. Now we can pass the torch to niggas like a Lil Russell, you feel me? Their names is too similar for me. But yes, you can see that transition happening now. And it's a beautiful thing to see. So, you know, much love to all independent artists out there. Get with me if you need that marketing plan. Do not sleep on yourself in 2026. All right. Peace out.